All right, how's it going today, guys? Castillo Trading coming to you with another live stream today. Very excited for this live stream. I'm not gonna lie, we got a lot to go over. A lot to talk about. We like to go over a few things, my analysis. We like to go over NPOC levels on BTC, NPOC levels on Ethereum, some current range setups that we're currently watching, and then looking at some altcoins towards the end. But yeah, let's just kind of jump right into this, guys. BTC and Ethereum. First thing we always like to talk about is NPOC levels. This is probably, one of the things that I think I get the most questions on from traders. What are NPOC levels? How do you use them? This and that, and it's just very, very straightforward, guys. I use them as basic support and resistance levels. I use them as something that, you can use as a guideline for directional bias on the short term, as a guideline for finding those big areas of support, big areas of resistance. That's kind of how we found the short level at 45,000. We were kind of shorting into that, guys. And then also that's kind of how we found some long entries as well, a little bit lower. We have some really good examples. This is a really good example right here based off of catching this NPOC level, taking it long, same with right here, kind of go back into that level and then bounce. And so that is kind of where we look to find our pivot areas, and they seem to be doing a really, really good job. So first thing, guys, is we did have this NPOC print right here at 44039. So we did end up getting this print when we were down a little bit lower. That was kind of what I was sending over in the Telegram, guys, a short-term directional bias of up from this level, just because we had that local NPOC print. And then into this morning, we saw a nice move. And fortunately, that kind of closes everything out for us with this NPOC level. 44039 now becomes a daily point of control. So instead of a naked point of control, it is now a daily point of control because price action had previously touched it. Now, this is currently what we're looking at. And this is a wide range, guys. I've said this before. This is a wide range from lows to highs, about 48K all the way up to about that 4950K on BTC. Straightforward. We create game plans for longs. We create game plans for short. Does that mean that I'm a LARP because I'm preparing for both? Absolutely not. It just means that I'm prepared for both longs and shorts and I'm ready to react. There's three great things that are constructed into a trade, right? Creating a game plan, sticking to that game plan, and then also executing that game plan, right? So there's a couple of things that we want to talk about as far as longing. For me, I did take a long this morning, and there were some people like, oh, why are you kind of longing into upper limit? Because upper limit is kind of a resistance level. And again, yes, that's very true, but we have to understand when resistance and support get weak, because there are times that they get weak. And I think personally that this is just one of those times where resistance is getting a little bit of weakness. So we see that because we got a lot of news coming in a couple of days on the 11th, right? 3 days is when the big ETF news drops that everybody has been waiting for, everybody has been harping on. For me, I stick to my technicals regardless. I stick to everything that I'm looking at regardless of the ETF, just because I still think that everything does lay within the chart regardless of headlines. And also you can kind of ignore some of the low-term time frame volatility that comes from those headlines, right? If you're prepared otherwise. This is what we're looking at as far as NPOC levels up top. The next area of interest is short. Again, guys, I am hedged a little bit short right now just because we did have this short area that we talked about on 1211, 45K. I did take that short. Most of those profits are locked in, are ready. So I am just writing a partial profit here. So again, just kind of having a little bit of exposure, but nothing too crazy heading into ETF. I don't want to put too much into what is happening with the ETF, but the next area of interest for a short, guys, is going to be higher if you aren't already short from 45K. I do think that we can potentially get that 49 to 50K run up based off of ETF approval. Now, does that mean that it's going to completely go straight up from here? No, you have to be careful as far as it goes coming into these types of headlines, right? You don't want to be longing the headlines. You really don't want to be shorting the headlines. In my opinion, you want to wait for the news to drop and then kind of have patience to see all that volatility, all that liquidation kind of happen, and then you can kind of create a base and go based off of a game plan going forward. If you are not long, I did kind of long a little bit today just because I did think that we did see a little bit of nice pumping action into just the ETF approval. But if you do want to have a little bit more patience to long, our long is at that 38K area. We've been talking about this area for a long time. If you're new, that's okay. We've just been talking about this for, over a month now, a couple of months, all the way back from these prints, which happened in early December. That retest of 38K is a good area to kind of long into. And again, if you know what I'm talking about, this is basically a scenario for like if ETF gets rejected or if the ETF sometimes gets delayed, because it's been delayed many, many times, we likely see some downside. We see panic sellers. We see a lot of people kind of overreacting towards that type of news, but we stay grounded, right? We're not going to panic. We know that if we do drop to 38K based off of whatever happens on the ETF, that is a support level. We know that's a support level based off our NPOC levels, based off our previous game plans, and then also just based off previous price action. Again, we'll go into some low-term time frame, current ranges, and that sort of thing, and kind of find some support as well. But 38K is another great area of interest to long into, in my opinion. If we get it while people are panic selling, maybe an ETF delayed or rejection, we will be looking to long that area. area, as it does offer a really good risk reward longing down there. So we're going to stick to that. As far as BTC goes to the short, we kind of just talked about there's really no short. If you aren't short from here, from that 45K area, then I would say that 49.50K. Now we did kind of talk about some high term time frame targets on this, right? This was that golden pocket Fibonacci, and that has been our target since really all the way back, like beginning of last year. Almost a year ago, we've been kind of talking about this kind of range, and once we break above this, that golden pocket Fibonacci was the target that we wanted. I'll have to go back and clip some live stream clips from that about a year ago, just because we've been talking about this for so long. And like I've said, there has been a lot of people now talking about the golden pocket Fibonacci target. There's these big accounts on YouTube, there's these big accounts on x.com that are just now targeting and figuring out, hey, maybe the GP Fib is a good target. So for me, I do kind of have my brakes a little bit on that target, just for the sole fact of we have been watching this for so long and it has already been playing out. And so for me, I just think a lot of people are kind of jumping on this ETF bandwagon, and if we do see a rejection, we got to be prepared for that rejection and look to kind of be longing that 38K area, just because there's so many people now kind of flooding in to that 48, 50K target. If it gets approved, maybe we see it. So you got to be prepared for both scenarios. I am prepared. I have a box BTC trade currently open. Also, I do have a lot of long spot exposure on BTC, and that's just been accumulated over the years since I've been involved. Take it for what it's worth. You know, I just think that this is a very uncertain time right now. There's a lot of people that are sidelined, kind of waiting for downside based off of an ETF rejection. I think that's a risk. You know, if you're risk off right now into potentially one of the biggest headlines that BTC has ever seen, I think that that's not a very good game plan, right? But then also, if you're overexposed at BTC at 45K, that's not a good game plan either. So there's definitely a comfortable in between that you guys should be targeting. And as of right now, if you are sidelined, and as of right now, if you do have too much exposure and you are uncomfortable, just take that as a sign, right? Like if you're uncomfortable because you're too long right now, then maybe, you know, again, you were chasing, you should have been longing a little bit lower. But going into Ethereum, guys, this is the one that kind of scares me a little bit. I'm not gonna lie, just because we did finally touch and close this NPOC level here. So this was kind of where we wanted our next short entry to be. I didn't write the date on this, but we created this a couple days ago. I think it was on the 5th. So what, about 3 days ago, we wanted a retest of this NPOC, and that was going to be our next short entry. And that's what we got today, guys. So technically, this is a very valid short entry here on Ethereum. And again, Ethereum is coming up to this median ML on this current range. And so again, coming off of a bounce off of lower limit, we retest median ML. And again, that's a resistance level. So I don't expect us to blast through this, right? I expect us to see a little bit of downside before we move higher. If we do continue to move higher, it's not going to be an automatic, you know, run all the way up towards upper limit. But let's just talk about some NPOC levels here. We don't have too much else to talk about other than this current one. We can kind of edit some of these. Again, I think like the most important thing is to stay organized within all this. We have our object tree over on Telegram or over on TradingView, and I think that it does a really good job of just being able to kind of stay organized within your setups. Organization is key. So this is the current setup without talking about any NPOC prints that are active. Like these are the only active ones. And again, it gives us a pretty wide range here. About 32% range on Ethereum. So we're gonna have to consider that because that's a very wide range for downside and upside. So let's just kind of continue to get to NPOCs on BTC. We do kind of have a little bit of a nerve-wracking print and setup here on Ethereum, as 2281 was the area of interest for us to short next. Now, I am not shorting Ethereum. I just think for me, it's just not what I personally want to do right now heading into ETF. Just knowing that I think Ethereum has a lot more upside as far as high-term timeframes. And just shorting Ethereum isn't really my favorite thing to do, especially just because I think it has more room to run. But I always like to give you guys the option. There's always an area. I mean, shoot, really, if you just shorted based off 2281, we've got a downside move already. Depending on your leverage, depending on your position size, you could have been profitable from that, taking some profits on to the next, right? So I give you guys different setups for both long and short so that you can decide what works best for you. And again, I always tell you guys what I'm going to do. I always tell you if I'm shorting, I always tell you if I'm longing, what I'm looking at, what I'm not looking at, and try and be as transparent as possible with you guys, even though sometimes it can be hard, just to kind of give you guys my entries right then and there. But you know, at the end of the day, I'm doing my best for you all. So let's just get into what we have now. Nothing has really changed. We closed out those two prints, and I was saying yesterday, I sent in the Telegram, you know, we had two NPOC prints, one at 2251 and one at 2281. That was giving us, same like BTC, that short-term directional bias to the upside, right? And so I wasn't longing Ethereum to the upside yesterday, but I definitely wasn't shorting it, right? You can't be shorting something, especially altcoins. Like a lot of people were messaging me say, oh, what altcoin should I short next? Guys, we just had between a 35 and 40% drawdown across altcoins the past 3 or 4 days. Why in the hell would you want to be shorting into that, right? You want to be capturing the short before that happens. And so for me, I was saying yesterday, there was no point to kind of chase the short after that type of drawdown. Same thing today, we're just going to continue to go off of what we have. And for what we have, I've been targeting this 2690 on Ethereum for a long time. That was really our next area of interest for a short since the beginning of December-ish of last year. We've been wanting a upside retest and short of 2690. And it stays the same for me. That's where I'm gladly going to potentially look to be shorting Ethereum next. Until then, I don't really have any interest in shorting Ethereum. And then to the downside, the long, it stays the same from, the end of December to kind of long that 2037. So these are currently what we are looking at as far as NPOC levels, guys. This is solely based off NPOC level prints, right? I think sometimes people get confused, like, oh, this is such a widespread. Guys, this is just for NPOC levels. This is how we get confluence for when price action starts to dig into these areas and when we start to look at current ranges on low-term time frame, medium-term time frame, that sort of thing. This is what we're solely looking at for Ethereum now. And again, not really at an area of interest for me unless you are kind of wanting to short this current NPOCs that printed the past couple of days. But you guys kind of know how I feel about that. Just kind of went over that. That's kind of why I kind of created the whole system here. It really marks out where you should be taking profits and where, you can average into, right? You have an area that you can average into. You have a stop loss of that area, and then you have take profits all the way up. And then really after taking profit 1 and 2, you're supposed to move stop loss to your entry point so that you can protect against those profits that you just currently made. Okay, AVAX, finally saw one. AVAX. Yeah, this thing's a beast. Yeah, I think just by looking at this very, very basic trading, support and resistance, this is a support level. We bounced and wicked perfectly to a support level. You almost can't get any more perfect than this, right? Because this was a very important key level that AVAX needed to get above. We kind of surged through it. Now we are retesting that area. And again, this hasn't really played of any importance until now. And so I think, yeah, that between $30.20 to about that $31.20. So about that dollar area is a good area of support and resistance for AVAX. So I think that this is a good area of retesting. And then, we can maybe see a potential upside higher. Wow. I actually really like AVAX here. I might have to put it on my watch list. Thank you for bringing that one up. But again, guys, if you have not subscribed to my YouTube channel, please go over to Castillo Trading and subscribe. I'm trying to build there. As you guys know that I have been putting out a lot of good content, a lot of shorts, a lot of live stream recaps, a lot of good video lessons for you guys. Again, thank you guys. I really appreciate you being in the stream. But if you guys have any questions, please don't hesitate to send me a message over on Twitter. Please don't hesitate to send me a message over on Telegram. They are open. I do have a team that is kind of helping me with giving people access to the Castillo AI Trading, but overall, it is normally me that responds to you guys. But I hope that you guys have a great rest of your day, and it's a new week of trading, and happy ETF week, guys. Let's follow it. Most of my information runs through my VIP Trade with Castillo Telegram. So shout out to you guys for joining, and I'll see you in the Telegram. Peace.